welcome to this video giving you 5 quick tips to help with either creating your own or editing your favourite FM synthesis patches. If you find this video interesting or helpful, please like, share and subscribe as it really helps the channel to grow. This video is as a result of a few comments regarding my earlier tutorial on recreating the Bladerunner brass sound using dexed. So do check out that video for a brief overview of FM, looking at the relationship between carrier and modulators, feedback loops and the nature of the envelopes used in Yamaha's first incarnation of FM, as implemented by dexed. I can still remember getting my original DX7 shortly after its release from Rock City Music in Newcastle back in the 1980s. In those days, magazines would print the data for FM patches to be manually entered into your DX. But it's the 21st century now, so tip number 1 is to make use of the many new tools that are available to help you sculpt your own sounds. Many FM synths have progressed beyond the simple sine waves used in Yamaha's first take on FM synthesis. And whilst pure FM is probably best learned with sine waves, experiment with the other waveforms if available on your synth. For quick changes of the timbre of the sound, dexed offers a basic filter, as do Yamaha's modx and montage synths, though with much greater control. They also offer the smart morph capabilities, which I looked at in a video that I'll link to in the top right corner of the screen. Native Instruments FM8 also has a morph style function, and in addition offers a number of handy tools to assist in editing FM patches. So here in FM8, we're looking at one of my own patches called Harping On. And you'll see there's a morph section there where you can morph between 4 different voices in a very similar way to you can on the modx. What I want to show you here is the timbre control, so we can adjust the harmonic content. Of the sound, and as well as detune envelope amount. And brightness. So we've really turned that harp sound into a bell. Let's just remind ourselves what the sound was like before by resetting everything. And this is the original sound. So quite a major change to the sound there with a few simple tweaks, very easy for a beginner to apply. Tip number 2 is to study the algorithms used in patches to help you reverse engineer sounds. Once you know the difference between carriers and modulators, have a look at the algorithms used to help identify elements of the sound. A flute sound, for example, might have the chiff of the sound used by a couple of operators and the body of the sound created by another pair. So let's put that into practice looking at this pad on dexed. It's called LA Pad 4B. So you'll see that there are basically 2 channels of information. The 2 carriers are at the bottom, carrier number 1 and carrier number 3 here. So if I disable number 3, we'll hear what just 1 and 2 are creating. So that's like the analog synthesis area of the patch. And if we have a listen to, of course, which of course it isn't analog at all, it's FM. But let's switch off number 1 and we'll hear now this portion of the algorithm. So that's giving us the bell sound. So the 2 together obviously give us the complete patch, but we might want to reduce that bell element. So let's take the level down and so hopefully you can see that by simply understanding the way that the algorithms work and the flow of the signals in FM, you can very quickly, with one simple control, completely change the characteristics of the sound. Tip number 3 is to use your DAW to automate parameters for more dynamic movement. By assigning LFOs from your DAW to modulate FM patches, it's like gaining extra operators for timbral movement or dynamic modulations. So let's have a look at this in action. I'm using Bitwig for this example because it's quite easy to set up modulators using Bitwig, and this particular sound simply called movement pad because there's quite a bit of movement in it, but let's introduce some more movement. This is the parameter that I want to adjust the output of operator D. So by simply moving it a wee bit, and then that becomes the top control here. You'll see that as I move this parameter, it's adjusting the value here. So I need to assign an LFO to that. So I'm going to go to classic LFO. And now I simply click on there and dial in the modulation. And we should now hear the extra movement. Let me just open this up and we'll dial that in. Of course, I could also assign another LFO or say an envelope to control the level of that LFO. Bitwig is really excellent at modulation. You can think of it as having extra modulators inside your FM synth, so you can actually do more with the sound itself. Tip number 4 is to memorize the formula for a simple sawtooth and square wave made from 2 sine waves. So to get a close approximation of a sawtooth, the formula is quite simple. Leave feedback at maximum at 7. So if we look at this algorithm, you'll see that the feedback is on operator 2, which is feeding down into operator 1. So the ratio is that you have the level of operator 2 at approximately 75. So that tends to give you this sort of a waveform. So it's not a pure sawtooth, but it's not far off. I actually like to push it just a little bit beyond there to about 79 or so. I'm actually doing this for quite a good reason on the modx. So I'll dial it up on the modx to 79. And whilst that certainly looks less like a sawtooth, to me it's a brighter, more pleasing sawtooth that's easier to work with. Now the formula to change that sawtooth into a square wave is quite straightforward. Go to the, if you look here, you'll see that the frequency is 1. If I go to the coarse frequency and make that 2, you'll find that you then get a near perfect square wave. Now again, I'll have to do that on the modx. So on the modx, that's labeled under coarse. So I've set that to 2. And the level, again, wants to be approximately 75 on the modx to approximate this. And as you can see, we get a less than perfect sawtooth, but again, you can experiment with the level. '79 has a bit more buzz to it. 75 is probably closer to it. That's leaving the feedback again at 7, which is the maximum feedback. Now the reason I'm using the modx is that I can illustrate how you can alter the sound of a single FM operator. So this is the sine wave from a single operator on the modx. Simply go to the operator edit page. Under where it says spectral, take it off sine and put it all 1. Onto all 1, and then next to that you'll see a command called skirt. If you dial that command skirt up, you'll see you can up to a maximum value again of 7. You can see that you're getting a near perfect sawtooth from that sine wave. Quick and easy way of doing it on the modx. Tip number 5. 2 operators is often all that you need. If you've ever used phase plant or parawave rapid, you'll know that interesting sounds can often be achieved using phase or a frequency modulation using 2 oscillators only. The same thing goes for traditional FM. This is a DX7 factory preset harpsichord 2 with only operators 3 and 4 active. I've completely disabled the other ones. So once you understand tip number 2, which was the algorithm, you can rejuvenate some of the tired old FM patches or perhaps overused factory presets and make them your own. So let's try and do that with a factory preset from the original DX7. Let's have a look at bass 1. Now, you'll probably recognize this sound. There's a touch of the Frankie Goes to Hollywood's about it. If we look at the algorithm, we can see how the sound is created. There are basically 3 elements to the sound made up of operators 5, 6, 3, 4 and 1 and 2. So if we go through and say disable number 3 and have a listen to the sound now, that's a much more satisfying bass sound to me. There's still a bit of a twang there, which is created with operator 5 and 6. So let's switch off number 5. And we've got quite a useful bass sound. So 3 completely different bass sounds, very easily achieved by simply switching operators on and off. Well, that about wraps things up for this video. Please like, share and subscribe if you found it helpful or interesting. And until the next video, thanks for watching.